The ISS, one of humanity's greatest ever accomplishments, is set to splash down in the Pacific Ocean in 2031. But how do we safely return something the size of a football field from space? Let's take a look at how we will return the structure from space, why it is being decommissioned, and how we will replace it. Events will begin in 2026, when the orbit of the ISS will be allowed to naturally decay under atmospheric drag, dropping from 400 kilometers to about 320 kilometers in mid-2030. At this point, a final crew will be sent to the station to ensure that any remaining equipment or items of historical significance that have yet to be removed are done so, also reducing the weight of the station. Once the final crew has left, the station's altitude will drop further to 280 kilometers, deemed the point of no return, as the station could no longer be boosted back above the drag caused by our planet's thick atmosphere. Here, a Russian spacecraft is expected to then give the station a final push back into the planet's atmosphere. However, the worsening political situation with Russia has led to NASA investigating its space tug alternative. NASA asked Congress for funding to start development of a space tug that might be needed to perform the mammoth task, a spacecraft that can push the station back into the atmosphere. The head of NASA's human spaceflight program later revealed it was estimated the tug vehicle would cost almost $1 billion. Whatever spacecraft is used, after this final push, the station will reach an altitude of 120 kilometers, where it will hit the Earth's thicker atmosphere at around 18,000 miles per hour, beginning re-entry. First, the solar panels will be torn from the structure due to the extreme headwinds. Then, at around 80 kilometers above the Earth's surface, the modules themselves start to be ripped apart from each other before they are set ablaze by the excruciatingly high re-entry temperatures, causing them to melt and disintegrate. Several sonic booms will be heard as the wreckage beams across the sky. Presuming all goes to plan, however, this flaming debris should pose no risk to human life. Instead, any of it that survives re-entry will be targeted to fall in Point Nemo, an area of the Pacific Ocean between New Zealand and South America, often used as a spacecraft graveyard. This area is deemed to be sufficiently far from human habitation to safely dump space equipment. Due to a quirk of ocean currents, it is also relatively devoid of nutrients, so supports little marine life. Even so, the debris path of the ISS will be huge and unlike anything seen before, stretching several kilometers wide and possibly up to 6,000 kilometers long. As such, access to this portion of the Pacific Ocean will need to be restricted during re-entry to avoid any casualties. The entire re-entry from the initial breakup of the solar panels to the splashdown in Point Nemo should last just 40 minutes. The ISS has been orbiting the Earth since construction on it began in 1998. It has hosted more than 250 visitors from 20 countries since its first crew arrived in November 2000. But much of its hardware is decades old, which could eventually see the station become dangerous or even uncontrollable in orbit. Beginning as a single Russian-built module in 1998, the station today is enormous, containing 16 modules, huge solar panels mounted on a metallic truss, and radiators to expel heat. At 109 meters in length, it is the largest human structure ever assembled in space. It was only designed to last in space for 15 years, but thanks to the combined teamwork of a host of nations, advanced maintenance has been carried out on the craft, allowing it to safely operate for at least double the original life expectancy. But what will replace the ISS once NASA decommissions the space station? The plan appears to rely on other companies making their way into space. NASA doesn't plan to launch another space station into orbit to base its operations on. While the ISS was a connected effort by many nations to further research space exploration, NASA hopes to piggyback off commercial space stations as an ISS replacement in the future. If NASA wants to use commercial space stations as an ISS replacement, then they're going to need to find ways to ensure that the companies they want to put stations into orbit have a reason to do so. It's a bit of a complicated matter, as it also involves figuring out how many space stations can orbit Earth at one time. We still have China's Tiangong space station, and other countries want their own too. Aside from nationally based space stations, some of the big players currently working towards creating stations of their own include Axiom Space, SpaceX, Blue Origin, and a joint operation between Voyager Space and NanoRacks. Each company plans to approach its station differently, so NASA could very well end up with a nice selection of ISS replacements to work with. Of course, NASA still has plenty of other big things in the works, including the construction of a base on the lunar surface, which we hope will come later in the decade. Ultimately, If things all go according to plan, NASA shouldn't have a hard time replacing the ISS with operations on other stations. Of course, all of this relies heavily on Russia sticking around the ISS until it is decommissioned in 2031. Any early removal of Russia's operations from the ISS could lead to a much earlier deorbiting, as Russia is responsible for several vital parts of the station's current operational tasks. Thank you for tuning in to today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this.